Hello and welcome back. I am the Clay Golem. This is Foundry VTT. We're in version 13. We're going to be using the 2024, so the modern rules for what we're looking at in this particular video, and that is shops. Now, there's a number of different ways that you can do shops in Foundry, a number of different mods that support that. We're specifically going to be looking at item piles. Now, some of you are thinking, hang on a minute, you've done this before. Correct, I have. It was quite a while ago. It was a couple of versions of Foundry ago. I think it was version 11. I can't remember off the top of my head. A few things have changed, but it's worth going through again because we've got a lot of newer people who may not have gone back and seen those, and things might not quite work the same. So a bit of a refresh for some of you. If you've never seen this before, then we're going to make your life a lot easier as a DM. Right, so what do we need? Okay, so first of all, let's look at the mods. Now, apart from the DMG, Monster Manual, PHB, and Tasha's Cauldron, and I've got those installed specifically because they've got all the items in, right? PHB's got a lot of the items that we may want to sell in our shop. The DMG's got some magic items we may want to sell in our shop. I've got item piles. Now, the difference in version 13 for item piles is they've split it for a core item piles mod and then your game system specific one. So obviously I'm in D&D 5e, so I need both of these, so that might be different. So if you're kind of going, well, I've got item piles and my shops don't work anymore and stuff, it might be because you haven't got the D&D integration bit, because you've not realized that that's now a thing. All right, so that's all we've got. We'll look at some settings for that later, but this is about building a shop. A shop needs a shopkeeper. So let's go to our actors. I'm going to create a new actor. He's going to be a non-playing character, and I'm going to call him shopkeeper. This is so easy to set up. He's our shopkeeper. There he is. We can obviously give him a picture and all of those things. I'm not going to bother for this because if you don't know how to do that, then I've already lost you. All right, so what we want to do is we want to configure this one. Now, straight away, this is different because we've got item piles in. You can see that this is saying main settings, and we've got these highlights here. Should this actor be an item pile? What do we mean by item pile? What it means is basically that they can hold and store lots of items. Yes, it is. It's an item pile. Bam. There we go. And then we've got some other options on here that we can actually leave as default. We don't need to worry about this. This is, you know, whether items stack, descriptions. We don't need to worry about any of that at this point. If we go to other settings, we now get to define what type of item pile this is. We want it to be a merchant in this case. Right, so we're creating a merchant. Now notice we get some different options here, so we can change the merchant image. We can upload something for that. Again, I'm not going to bother because I'm lazy. Do they have infinite quantity of items? There's a good chance you don't want that. There might be specific merchants that have an unlimited amount of something or unlimited amount of all of their stock for whatever reason. You can use that. We don't want that. Do they have infinite currencies? So selling items to this merchant won't subtract from its currencies. Merchants work in both ways. Your players can buy from them, but also sell to them. So if they're selling to them, will that merchant ever run out of money? Okay. I would always personally have my merchants run out of money at some point. I might give them a hefty purse, but I would much rather they actually ran out of money. Your choice, depends on your merchant and your situation and everything else that you want to do. Zero quantities. When an item is fully sold out, this merchant will still have the item in there and say, I've got none in stock at the moment, as opposed to merchants who go, oh, well, I've run out of those, so it comes off of their shopping list. So again, it depends on the type of merchant you're building. If you're building a shop that has a regular stock of stuff, it gets restocked every week, and there's some really common items that are in there. I've usually got that in. I've sold out this week. Come back in a couple of days, it will be back in stock. Then you would want it to keep zero quantities. If it's more of a traveling trader and it's like, hey, I don't always know what I'm going to have in stock, you know, it's potluck, then you turn that off. I'm going to leave that off. Item quantity visibility, blah, 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 blah. Purchase only. So when enabled, characters cannot sell to this merchant. They won't buy their crap that they found in the dungeon. Up to you. Up to you if what on your merchant, whether you want that or not. Hide new items. Hide items with 0 cost. So if there is free stuff that you want them to be able to hand out, you can hide them. Accept base price only. So this is when enabled, all items sold to this merchant must use the base price and not any custom prices. Okay, that's up to you. Merchant logs, log their activity, clear those logs if you want to. So if you want to keep a track, if you want to be able to see what have my players been doing over a period of time with this merchant, you can log that stuff. I don't. I'm not running a large city with a big commerce engine behind it where I need to keep track of the economy and I need to balance things, and I'm not doing that. If I was running a big game world, and that would possibly be something I would look at, I'm not doing that, so I don't care. Buy and sell modifiers. So this is based off of their base price. Does this merchant sell a little bit cheaper? So they sell for 90%. So something that would normally cost 10 gold, they would sell it for 9 gold. Probably not going to go much lower than 100%, but you can put it up. So this particular merchant, they're in the middle of nowhere, they sell stuff that is, particularly desirable. They put the prices up. Oh, no, bandits are raiding, the trading lanes and stuff like that. Okay, brilliant. Right, they put their prices up because they can make more money. Up to you. And sell modifier. This is how much, when your players sell to this merchant, by default, how much will that merchant pay for an item? Will they pay half of that item's price? Now, I think 50% is fairly generous. You can move it to whatever you want. Okay, you want to offload all of that stuff you've been carrying around, you're only going to get half the value for it. It's up to you what you want to do. Now, notice that you can configure item price modifiers and particular actors. So this person gets a particular discount and stuff like that. You can configure lots of things in here, what the merchant columns are, all sorts of things. By default, this will work fine. So you don't need to touch any of that, but just be aware there's lots of options to refine it. Now, when we actually get to building our shop, which we will do very shortly, then you will start to see stuff and go, oh, okay, so I can use those options to change this, change that, to make that different. That will make sense in a moment. Shops have opening and close times if you want them to, because you know what, that merchant at some point goes to bed. So you can see right here that you can say, oh, it opens at 9 o'clock and it closes at 6 o'clock in the evening. If that's what you want to do, brilliant, you can turn that on. Obviously that would link to game time, however you control your game time, etc. I'm going to leave that off for this. Right, okay, so now we've got our settings basically done. Back to our shopkeeper. You can see that when we open our shopkeeper, we've got a description down here. I just chucked any old rubbish in, but you can just edit that like you would any kind of journal entry. Put that all in, lovely, jubbly, done. Any description that you think is going to be relevant. We've got some shortcut settings here as well. We've already just seen these, but you can access them a bit quicker. Purchase only, hide new items, and those price modifiers if you want them. Now, what we need to do, of course, is we need to give this guy some stuff to sell. Because if he hasn't got any stuff to sell, how's that going to work? So let's close that. First of all, let's find our shopkeep, and we're going to actually put him here behind a counter. Here we go. He's going to turn around and everything because I haven't got the default to turn off the spinning. That's fine. Let's open the shopkeeper. Here he is. We want to populate our items. Now on the left hand side it will say merchant has no items here. And at the bottom you can see we've got add currency and we've got some money. So let's give him some money in case he's going to have some money, isn't he? Let's give him 25 gold, 2 platinum, 17 silver and 23 copper, whatever that might be. So really easy to give this guy some money so that he can buy some stuff off the players, assuming you want them to be able to do that. And of course that shows in the bottom right hand corner. But we want to get some items in here for him to actually be able to sell. So I'm going to go to the compendium, and this is why I like having the rulebooks and stuff installed, because it's really easy for me to go to the player's handbook and go to equipment. And now we can just look at this stuff and go, right, what do we want to be able to sell? Do we want him to sell acid? I am holding and dragging that over here, and item piles is going to give me a pop and say, you're dropping acid. Do you want to? You're adding this item to the item pile known as shopkeeper. How many do I want to drop? Well, let's drop 2, and we can add pile. There we go. Current items he has for sale is 2 acid. So we can go through and we can just add a whole bunch of these things, whatever we think is relevant. Hello, barrel. Oh, containers. Why? Yeah, that's interesting. It doesn't want us to do a barrel. Why not? Anyway, most of this stuff, a book and stuff like that, is going to work. Bedroll and stuff like that. I'm not sure why barrel and basket are not working. Is it because they are a container? We'll get around that. We'll sort that out in a minute. But we can drop all of these things in, nice and easy. And then when we go back to buy items, you can see that this has automatically, and we changed, basically we didn't change any of the settings. By default, it is breaking things that are down into what's considered loot and consumables. It's got our quantities we put in. There's our 2 acid, and it's giving us the base PHB price. Just to prove that, we go to acid. You can see that that has got 25 gold price for 1 acid. This says 25 gold. He's ready to go. Now we have got some options here. We can go to the cog, which is going to bring up these things if we want to. If we want to change particular stuff, don't want to. We can show or hide this item. So you can see that that is now grayed out. The players can't see that he has that item. So if you've got stuff that they sell a bit under the counter and they have to use a password or a code word or have to flash an insignia or something, you can have those hidden normally, and then you can reveal them later. So you can do that. You can say this set not for sale as well. So they can see the items on the shop, and the guy says, oh no, not for sale. No, we only sell those to members of, the Red Flag Brigand group or something like that. Unless you've got that, he won't sell it to you, but he's got it. So you can hide. The players don't know he's even got it. Or you can say, he's got it, but he's not going to sell it. Either way. So players can't automatically buy that stuff. Does that make sense? I hope so. So this is populated, ready to go. Okay, so players can interact with this without any problems. Now, that's all quite simple and quite straightforward. The next question is, what happens when the players have been into town, they've raided the shop, they've left, and you want to repopulate this shop? You can just come back in and do exactly what we have just done. You can come in and add all of those things in. You can clear everything. You can, re-add stuff, etc. if you want to. An easier way to do this is to use roll tables. Although being roll tables, there is no guarantee that this guy is going to have everything that you suggested. So on the right hand side here, can you see that this has got rollable tables, and it's allowing me to pick from these different tables? Before we look at that, let me show you what I mean. We look at roll tables over here. I've got a folder called shop stocks. And in here I've got weapons L1, L2 and L3. So L1, these are the items. So to create these roll tables, literally create a new roll table, give it a name, and then drag these items, for example, antitoxin, into here. Now you'll see that this is 1 through to 11. So this is effectively a D11 roll. And Foundry is great because you can roll any sided dice you like because it's digital. We can just add these extra items onto here as part of this roll table. If I click update roll table, that's fine. We're now using a D12 and I can remove that. I want to add that table as a restock for this shop. You can see that I've now got weapons L1 on here. I can remove that. I can configure it to add all of the items from that table. Or I can roll. Now, I do need to update this, and this is something you might miss and go, oh, why did that item never come up? We have 12 items on our table. I want to roll 1d12. Sorry, that's times to roll on this table. How many times do I want to roll on this table? Apologies, it's going to roll d12. We've got 12 items. Say we're going to roll 6 times. 6 times. So half of the items are going to be in stock and added to this shopkeep every time we do it. Yeah, that makes sense. One of those things, little things change. Brilliant. We can just override that and say just roll every item. You just include every item on the table. I'm not going to do that because it's much cooler to see this working. Now we've got that set. This little roll table, if I click this, you can see that it's rolled those items. Now you're thinking, you said roll 6, it's rolled 5. Note it's rolled sickle twice, which is fine. I can select which ones I want to add or just go add all items. This shop now is stocking these 6 weapons. So using a roll table, what you can do is you can have multiple different merchants all just restocking from the same table, rather than having to restock each individual merchant. Now, of course, you can have one roll table per merchant and just go, this merchant uses that roll table, and that's all of their stuff. So every time you need to restock this particular merchant, brilliant. You just click on, you'll only have the one table in here. You'll just click the roll table. Bam, there we go. It's going to bring them all in. I'm not going to bring those in again. So that's one way you can do that. One merchant to one roll table. He will always have his stock. Either he always has everything, or he has a random number of, or rather he has a number of items off of that random table. Either way you can do that. Now, of course, you can have, I'm going to add a second table here. You can have more than one table. So you could have a table that is, he always has every item on weapons L1, but he has a selection of items from weapons L2. Let's have a look at weapons L2. Notice that this does not have the same items on it. We've got some martial weapons on here rather than just simple weapons. So these are a bit higher grade, if you like, and this is obviously 1 to 7 on here. Now what we can say for this table when we configure this is, say this has got D4 minus 1 as its default for the number. We can say D6 minus 1, which means he's going to have between 0 and 5 items from that table. I'm going to change that and just say D6. Let's roll for that. I rolled a 2. Oh, well, no, I haven't. I've rolled a 5. It's going to put 3 battle axes and 2 halberds. Let's add those, both of those, onto the items. So now the players will be able to see all of these weapons. He's got quite a few. Okay, so you see how that works. I've obviously got a level 3 one as well. That is and more martial weapons, things that are slightly less common, and a couple of magic items on there as well. So why have I done this in these tiers? Why have I chosen to do this as weapon L1, L2, L3? So just as an idea, there's a number of different ways that you can do this restocking. This merchant always has the same stock in all of the time. Okay, so roll table, include everything, job done. This merchant always has some stock in, so I use that table, but it randomly has a chance of having some of these items in as well. So you're going to roll from that table, and you might have something like a D4 minus 1. So you may have 1 or 2 of those more specialist items. The other way that you can look at this is as the players progress, that merchant starts to have better stock. So when they start off at level 1 and they're still level 2, maybe the merchant only stocks things that are L1 level. Once they hit level 5, that merchant now has more stuff available, and then you can start including the L2 stuff that's a bit more powerful, a little bit more rare, and then when they hit level 10, that includes some magic items and things like that. So as they work through your campaign, through your adventure, you can have that shop restock with slightly better items. He will always have the basic stuff, but slightly better items as they progress through your campaign. Now, That I really like as an idea, but what I like even better as an idea is not linking it to players' level, linking it to players' actions. Take a scenario like Fandelver that is kind of on the frontier lands or any place like that. The more the players do, the easier it is for traders to get through. Securing those roads, dealing with those. You might have, 5 different ways to come into and out of this town that leads off to other cities and things like that. Well, as players clear those roads, trade improves. More items or more different types of items are able to get through. Like, brilliant, you've secured that one. There's now more farming implements and foodstuffs available for the players to purchase. Oh, you've cleared out that area and dealt with those bandits. Well, guess what? You've now got more. You now opened up the trade route from the dwarves, and where you're going to be able to have more of those kind of items, plate armor and stuff like that, weapons and tools. And things that are coming in, as well as raw resources like rock and things like that. Oh, right, you've opened up this area now, and you're now able to get hold of, better wooden products, which is going to include bows, and it's going to include, staves and things like that. Oh, and finally, you've opened up this. You've saved the tower from its, whatever is going on, and now the wizards are willing to open up trade, and now you have access to certain magic items. Doesn't matter what order they do those different missions in, because you're ready, because you've got your roll table that aligns with, you've completed that bit. That means that these items are now more available. You don't have to do that. You can set this all up beginning. It's all part of your planning, and then when you're actually playing the game, all you're doing is going, right, brilliant, you now have this stuff, great, let's roll on that table. Yeah, there's now a +1 scimitar available. So that's just an idea of how you can use that, okay? Really, really nice. Now, how do players interact with this? Let's talk about that in just a second. Okay, so I've switched over to the player's view here. I've also made a couple of little changes. Tharivol is now going to be our merchant up there, and we've got this strapping young lad, whoever the heck this is, just random character portrait, who's coming in and he wants to do some shopping. So we're in as the player, so I can't select Tharivol because he's a non-playing character. But if I double click on him, I'm too far away. If I double click on him, this is what the players see. I can see the shop. I can see Tharivol there with his fairly badly done picture. Bit scruffy around there, but I can see all the items he's got for sale. I can click on any of these and I can see what these things actually are and their descriptions if I want to, and check them out, because remember, one of the settings was allowing them to be able to do that. Chances are they're fairly standard items. I know what they are going to be. We can see the prices. We can also see that light crossbow is 25 gold. That is greyed out. Let's look at our little character here, who's got absolutely nothing on his character sheet except I've given him some coinage. He's only got 12 gold, 17 silver and 33 copper. He can't afford that light crossbow, so it's greyed out. Let's click on buy and see what happens. It asks if we want to purchase it. This button won't work. It can't. You cannot afford this price, it says. So you can't buy that. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not in the DM screen. This is all the player being able to do that themselves. What if I want to buy a hand axe? Let's click on hand axe. Asks me to confirm. Maximum of 2. I only want to buy 1. I can click buy item. A couple of things happened. 1. In the merchant, hand axes, it only has 1 now because we bought 1. That makes sense, right? So it takes care of that for us. It also, as you probably saw, added that hand axe to our character sheet. So the player literally will look at the shopping list and go, I want to buy that, confirm that's how many I want, bam, it puts it in their character sheet straight away for them. And the other thing is that because I've got this switched on, it will say there was a trade between shopkeeper and Bob. Bob bought the following things from the shopkeeper, a hand axe. So if you've got your players who are visiting different shops, doing different things and everything else, you can actually see what they are purchasing. But they can't purchase stuff they can't afford. So unless they are naughtily editing their character sheet and giving themselves more gold or something like that, which is, I can't help you with that one, it will control them. I want to sell this item now. What items do I have that this guy will buy? Go to sell items. There it is. There's a hand axe. Notice I bought it for 5. It's only going to give me 50% of that price, which is 2 gold and 1 electrum. Ugh, I'm going to end up with electrum in my character sheet. So if I sell it, confirm I want to sell one of them. It has taken the item out of here. It has given me that disgusting electrum piece and added 2 gold back on. And of course, it's removed it from here. Now, what I just noticed is it didn't actually update the card to say that I've sold something. It's only got what I bought. It's probably a setting to say both of them, to include that. Okay, so don't worry about the fact that you don't worry about that too much. And do you care? Do you care from that direction? It's up to you. So I can go back and now I can buy a dagger. Thank you very much. And again, that's going to work. And look, it's keeping this track of all the things that we actually bought from here. I'm going to buy a sickle. I'm going to buy that hand axe back. Yeah, it was a mistake. I sold it. Yep. Now we've now bought 2 hand axes in total, even though we sold one of them. And you can see these items here are graying out as our money diminishes. Okay, I can buy a quarterstaff. That's only 2 silver. I'll have that. Thank you very much. Lovely. And that's just going to keep updating. I've made a hideous mistake. I've already made the transaction. This guy is not going to allow me to just, trade it back for the same price. I need to sell it back. Let's sell the quarterstaff. We're going to get 1 silver back for that. We're going to sell the dagger. And we're going to sell the sickle. We're going to keep that hand axe. We've paid an awful lot for that. So it's going to balance our money for us, whichever direction we're going. It is updating, and I should have pointed out, it is updating the merchant money as well. Let's buy another item. Okay, so we're going to buy 1 silver piece. So the merchant's currently got 16 silver. If I buy this club, the merchant now has 15 silver. Did that go the wrong way? Oh, shopping as Bob. Right. That's showing Bob's money, not the shopkeeper's money. That's fine. So you can see what Bob's got down here. All right, that's what that is at the moment, because we're in the player view. So the player can see how much money they've got here. Right, that makes sense. See what I mean? This is why I'm redoing the video, because some things have changed and are better than they were before. And that was something I missed. So watch out for that. This is not the merchant's money. We're in as the player view. Now I'm going to jump back to our DM view. Magic. And let's see what it looks like from the DM's point of view. So we can see that that's happened. We've got our chat card here, so we can see the money coming in and out. And we can open our dude. And yes, indeed, we can see actually that our money has changed correctly. Now we're looking at it from the merchant point of view. So at no point does that player get to see how much money that merchant's got, which makes sense, right? It's a confusing thing when you're doing videos and you're jumping between DM and player view sometimes. Is it just me? Is it just me that's a little bit thick? Struggle with that. But you can see how that works. Really nice and easy. You can manually add stuff to the shopkeeper all day long. You can utilize those roll tables to do it, to restock. And of course, just because I've got my weapon L1 table, I can have every merchant they ever encounter that is going to sell weapons use the same tables. So a whole city worth of merchants can be created with a default economy, depending where your characters are within, within the adventure or by level. Or so what? You can sell them a magic sword +2 from level 1. They can't afford it, but you can have it in there for something for them to aspire to. So you can populate your shops however you like, but because each merchant can use multiple tables, yeah, Tharivol here might have a default that shop list that is the same as every other merchant in the area that sells weapons, but he also has some special additional stuff that you can only get from Tharivol and from nobody else. So you can absolutely do that, mix and match however you like. So were there any other options? Let me just, I'm going to close this shop for a second. And then if I can get this right and jump back to here. With this shop now closed, we're now as a player. This is updated immediately to say the merchant is closed. Check back later. So if this player tries to buy, it will tell him it's closed. Now, obviously, I'm using a person here in a scene that is a shop. You might not want to do that. What you might want to do is just have your town or city map and just put out, I don't know, instead of the icon for the merchant and use a picture of the person, you might want to put their trade flag or an anvil to show it's a smithy or something like that, so that your players can wander around town and they can click on those to see what each of those shops sell, depending how you want to do shopping. Some DMs and some groups like to roleplay every single shopping encounter. Yeah, and you can lose 5 sessions just doing shopping. If that works for your group, brilliant, do it. Use these. If you are much more the type of group that you want to, right, we're going to do some shopping. Okay, just get it done. It's an admin task. Just get the shopping done. Let's move on with the adventure. Then you can do that and give them the map, and they can move their characters around it. They can visit those shops, click on them, do their own shopping. And you don't have to worry about role-playing every single encounter, especially as the wizard wants to go over to this shop, the druid's going over there to do this, the cleric's going to the temple to see if they've got some scrolls. Everybody's going different directions. They can all do it at the same time. And then you can just answer questions or support them, or maybe while they're all doing that, the halflings decided that they want to go and try and steal some stuff. You can focus on the halfling and what they're doing that will involve a bit more, a bit more input, while the rest of the players are doing their shopping, and then you can get on with the adventure. Absolutely up to you. But item pile shops really does give you that flexibility to be able to control your economy, control your shopkeepers, and make shopping a much more dynamic, either much faster or much more interesting way of doing it. Because we might look at those prices when he's open. We might look at those prices and go, I'm not paying that, and negotiations come in. Perhaps you could consider lowering your prices. Well, I've got a job that you could do, and, if you want to get the best prices, you help me with this and I'll give you a discount. And we know, because we've already looked at it, in that case, we go, oh, right, the players have done something wonderful. We can come into settings and we can... You've now got a discount, and you can see those prices are changing. If I can actually get it spot on, you only pay 90%, and you saw those prices changing as I did it. So they can get discounts from these shops, not from every shop, only from Tharivol. Only from this shop do they get the discount because they did something. It just handles all that for you. Okay, you don't put your calculator away; you won't need it, which is just amazing. I'm babbling, but I hope you have found that really useful. I hope that's kind of given you an idea of how you can use shops in your campaign if you want to, and use item piles to be able to just make them a bit more dynamic, a bit more useful. Anything that removes admin from the DM and allows them to focus with the players on the story is a good thing in my book. I love using item pile shops. There are, like I say, there are others. You can do it. You can do it through monks. You can do it the old way of just kind of flicking through the book, whether it's the digital or the real one, and just adding those things on. None of them are wrong. Whatever works for your party. I personally love doing it this way. That's it. I'm going to stop babbling. Thank you for watching. Take care. Leave a like. Leave a comment. If you're not subscribed, please do so. It really does help out the channel. And I will see you in the next one.